Hello everyone, what is going on? Raven here, welcome back. Another plot hole video for y'all today. Since you guys do seem to be liking it, I'm gonna do a Game of Thrones one today for you all. Now, I do love the show Game of Thrones, do not get me wrong, but let's see if the plot holes in today's video make sense. If you like today's video, if you like hearing plot holes in TV shows and movies, let me know in the comment section down below, and hit the like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and I would like to add one thing before we start today's video. Please keep in mind that we should be being respectful of each other in the comment section down below, as I have had to unfortunately delete some comments. I don't like doing that. I like hearing and reading what you guys all have to say, but we should all be respectful. And if you just don't like my content, well then I hope you find the content you like somewhere else. I am trying a variety of different things, and if you are waiting for other content, just let me know in the comment section. But if you don't like my videos, please, you don't need to say rude things to me on my comments on my videos, okay? Let's get into it. Littlefinger's teleportation around Westeros. Littlefinger served as a valuable Lannister ally for much of Game of Thrones before becoming more explicitly his own player. In the early seasons, he was one of the Lannisters' prime diplomats in the War of the Five Kings. However, this role saw him cross large swaths of Westeros far quicker than was possible. Other characters struggled to travel even short distances. Baelish, however, could travel from King's Landing to the Reach, from there to Harrenhal, and back again within a handful of episodes. This would be harmless, except that these travels cement one of Game of Thrones' strongest alliances between the Lannisters and the Tyrells. Alliser Thorne's betrayal. The Night Watch's mutiny was one of Game of Thrones' most infamous plot twists. When Jon Snow led in the wildlings, some of his own men turned on him and stabbed him to death. These mutineers' leaders were Sir Alliser Thorne, who justified his actions with the threat that wildlings posed. However, Sir Alliser opened the gates to wildlings in the first place. If he was willing to stab Jon over the decision, he should have been willing to disobey an order. Instead, Game of Thrones makes Sir Alliser's actions impossible to reconcile together. At best, he looked incompetent as both a night watchman and a traitor. Cersei and Robert's Child. Game of Thrones alters the Song and Ice and Fire books in many ways. One minor change that makes no sense is the revelation about Robert Baratheon and Cersei Lannister's marriage. Cersei tells Catelyn Stark that a true-born child of hers and Robert's who died of a fever. This ended up not making sense. Cersei's prophecy in Game of Thrones specified that she would have 3 children, none of whom would be Robert's. And on top of that, the Queen having a son without the other lords knowing is almost impossible. It also caused timeline issues, given that Joffrey was born shortly into their marriage. The Faith dying in one explosion. The Faith militant were a significant antagonist throughout Game of Thrones' 5th and 6th seasons. The High Sparrow led them to take over King's Landing, usurping power from King Tommen and his supporters. Cersei Lannister's victory over them was one of the show's most celebrated moments, but it was far too easy. Cersei blew up the Sept of Baelor and killed the High Sparrow and other enemies. And that was it. Despite the faith of the Seven's strong presence elsewhere in Westeros and the deeply religious populace, everybody accepted this attack, and there were no reprisals of any kind. Melisandre's necklace. The major revelation about Melisandre in Game of Thrones was that she wasn't a young and beautiful sorceress. Instead, she was an ancient woman using magic to appear young. Melisandre dispelled this glamour by removing her necklace, which revealed her true form on almost every occasion. However, a scene in Game of Thrones' 4th season made this inconsistent. Melisandre was in the bath without her necklace and still looked as young as ever. This production blunder made Game of Thrones' vague magic even more confusing and inconsistent. House Tyrell's lack of power. Game of Thrones' 7th season had the tide turn against Daenerys, despite her advantages at the start of the season. In particular, House Tyrell was taken out of the war in a single battle. After some misdirection, the Lannister army marched on Highgarden and took it without so much as a siege. House Tyrell was a powerful faction for most of Game of Thrones. Their support made Renly Baratheon and later the Lannisters the strongest powers in Westeros. They had an enormous army and a lot of knights. However, Jaime and even Olenna Tyrell acted like House Tyrell was a weakling power that should have been annexed years before. Cersei not exploiting Casterly Rock. Casterly Rock's inheritance was a significant plot point in Game of Thrones' 4th season. Tyrion's attempts to secure it caused further friction with Tywin and Tyrion, which caused Tywin to push for Jaime to leave the Kingsguard and claim his rights. When the matter settled, however, the show ignored it. Tywin was dead, Jaime was a Kingsguard, and Tyrion was a patricidal exile. Cersei was the undisputed lady of Casterly Rock. This should have given her far more power in Game of Thrones' 5th and 6th seasons, as well as an army. Instead, the show treats Cersei as nothing more than a dowager queen. Her power was reduced to her influence over Tommen and friends like Qyburn. Littlefinger bypassing Moat Cailin. The North was a defensible region in Game of Thrones, despite its frequent troubles for the Iron Throne. The Lannisters never assaulted it directly. Many characters discussed the impossibility of invading the North from the south. This was due in part to the castle Moat Cailin, which threatened any army trying to move north. However, Game of Thrones ignores this fact for a dramatic moment. Littlefinger somehow occupies Moat Cailin without resistance and aids the Starks from there. Previous factions like the Boltons had tried to use trickery to bypass Moat Cailin. Littlefinger just took it, with no mention of either a genius tactic or a victorious battle. The North abandoning House Stark. House Bolton's ascension to Wardens of the North was one of the biggest changes of Game of Thrones' status quo. They deposed the beloved House Stark and turned the land hostile to many characters. Game of Thrones' 4th and 5th seasons emphasized the fragility of the Boltons' rule. The Boltons carefully monitored the remaining Starks like Jon Snow and plotted to control others like Sansa. They were wary of foes like Stannis overtaking them. However, Game of Thrones' 6th season made their rule feel secure and almost unchallengeable by Jon and Sansa. The North refused to rise, despite their supposed loyalty and love for Ned Stark, which sharply contrasts with the Song of Ice and Fire and gives way to Game of Thrones' disappointing final season. And the last one for the day, Beyond the Wall's time span. Many saw Game of Thrones Season 7 as a significant step down from previous seasons, which did not bode well for Season 8. In particular, the episode Beyond the Wall became infamous for not making sense. Its events happened far too quickly to be logical, all to set up a dramatic and spectacular action finale. Jon and his allies are stranded far north of the wall, so they send Gendry for help. In the course of one evening, Gendry crossed the wastes. Castle Black sent a raven across half of Westeros, and Daenerys flew all the way from Dragonstone to Jon's aid. These events should have taken weeks, not hours. What do y'all think? And also let me know if you like the show Game of Thrones in the comment section down below. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I really did like it. And I do have to agree that the very end seasons were way too rushed. Especially the last season, it was way too rushed. But if you overall did enjoy the show, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you're watching House of the Dragon currently, please let me know that in the comment section as well. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!